Hello everybody and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to be talking about Jeffree Star. Jeffree Star, the influencer, the business person, the makeup mogul who is impossible to cancel. This is very similar to a video I did, I think it was a week ago or several days ago, in which I talked about why I think it's impossible to cancel Jaclyn Hill. And in that video, I was sitting in front of you guys and I basically outlined my reasoning behind why I think it is impossible to cancel Jaclyn Hill. And today, I'm going to be doing the same thing, but for Jeffree Star. And similar to that video, I'm also filming this right before I go to work. So I do have some notes over here. I have my ideas in my head. So let's just get right on into it. Now, Jeffree Star in general is an influencer that has been on this platform for quite a long time, but he has risen to great prominence over the last few years, and he has built a really successful makeup brand called Jeffree Star Cosmetics that has released products such as the Alien palette, more recently the Jawbreaker collection, and is known for something like the Skin Frost highlighters or the velour liquid lipsticks, to name a few of their most notable products. So he is somebody that is very prominent in this space, and I definitely feel that not a week or rather a month goes by without some kind of scandal when it comes to Jeffree Star. Jeffree Star, in my mind, already has noticed that scandals do bring publicity. When you have a lot of people spreading your name around, it's kind of like all publicity is good publicity. In some cases, I know that that is a statement that some people agree with and some people don't agree with, but I do think that to some extent, all publicity can be good publicity. And in Jeffree Star's case, all this publicity does seem to work to fuel his brand and his success. However, I do not want to make this a video talking about just Jeffree Star's scandals because, quite honestly, at this point, they kind of bore me. I will say that he, in my mind, is not necessarily somebody that I 100% agree with whatsoever. I still credit him with building a really successful makeup brand and some other businesses as well, and I think that that's fantastic. However, I don't think that he has done a very good job of portraying himself as a person that I necessarily find myself agreeing with. Why has Jeffree Star not been canceled? I think that one of the first reasons is because he is entertaining. He is one of those people that you watch and you really find yourself entertained by because his videos are interesting, they're engaging, he has a great persona on camera, and he's able to capitalize off that enormously. And I do think that his persona and the way he portrays himself on camera, it's like his own personal brand, and it's so unique to him that it really fuels his success. And yeah, his videos are entertaining, he knows how to make himself interesting on camera, and it's fun to watch his videos if you like that kind of content. I personally don't necessarily find myself watching a lot of Jeffree Star videos whatsoever because his content is not content that I find entertaining, but millions of other people do, and that basically fuels his brand. And that's the reason why he has so many views on his channel and why so many people love to come back and watch him, because he's an entertaining person. Also, his video quality and production is really great. He spends a lot of time and money on making his quality really great. And I will say that a lot of big YouTubers have in many cases mastered the backgrounds, the camera quality, the lighting, but I think that Jeffree Star takes it a step further by literally taking us out of his studio, if you will, and making mini films in which he basically takes the cameraman, he goes to different places, he has interesting and engaging content in his many cars, for instance, and he basically is able to really up the level of his production. And I think that that really makes his content valuable in that sense, because you have somebody who's entertaining and you have somebody that is not willing to skimp on video production. I also think that something about Jeffree Star, and this might be an unpopular opinion, but this is just my personal opinion. Feel free to disagree with it in the comments below, of course. But I think that the reason that Jeffree Star has not been canceled yet, and I know it is next to impossible to cancel anybody on the internet, I know this, but let's just talk about this point right here. The reason I think that Jeffree Star is so difficult to cancel, even if he is literally somebody who's had scandal after scandal, and even if he already has tweeted so many, like, just things that I don't agree with and that not a lot of other people agree with. I think that he has already established himself as somebody that says all these things. He has already established himself as somebody who in many cases is unlikable. And I'm probably screwing this point up in terms of delivery, and I'm really sorry about that. But I feel that Jeffree Star, his persona, his brand is basically, I'm gonna say what I want, I'm gonna do what I want, I'm gonna look like how I want, and I do not care about what anybody else thinks. And I think that he is a voice for people, for anybody who feels different or who feels that they don't fit in, because Jeffree Star doesn't bother to fit in. He is Jeffree Star. He does not have to fit in. I do feel like I want to expand on this point a little bit more because I feel like I wasn't really being clear in this particular clip. I think that Jeffree Star has really established himself as an unlikable person. Yes, I also think that he has basically had so much controversy, so much scandal, that we have almost become desensitized to the things he says and the things he does and the way he conducts himself online especially. So whenever something like comes up about him being this way or that way, yes, there's like outrage, but it's not necessarily anything that people are that surprised about, because that's what we have come to expect from him. And in a way, like, he's had so much of this happen that it no longer surprises anyone and it no longer causes as much outrage as it quite possibly should. And I do think that he is a voice for people who feel that they are different, and for people who feel that they don't really have a place, because Jeffree Star is so incredibly unique in the way he just is. And I'm not talking about his scandals, I'm talking about him as a person separate from that. I'm talking about him and the way he dresses, the way he acts, the way he walks, the way he talks. He is somebody who is so himself and so unapologetically himself and so unapologetically Jeffree Star that he is in so many ways a voice for the people who feel that they don't have an opportunity to fit in. And I feel that that is something that makes him really appealing to a great many people, and a great many people that follow him because of that quality that he has. I will say that I'm kind of just disappointed in the entire just world of YouTube, because I look at Jeffree Star and I see somebody who finds it very easy to say hateful things and to spread negativity. Alright? But I also see somebody who is a figurehead for people who don't have a lot of other role models to turn to in terms of them just being themselves, them being more flamboyant in, say, their sexuality or their style. It is really, I think, upsetting, to me at least, that as a society we don't have as many people as we should who can be role models to people who feel like they don't necessarily have that big of a voice. So anyway, now that I'm done with this little sort of segment, let's just get back into the video. And when he's already established himself as different, as Jeffree Star and nobody else, and he's already established himself as, well, unlikable to some extent, in some areas, he's already sent the message to his viewers, his followers, and to the rest of the community that this is Jeffree Star. Take it or leave it. That is why, in my personal opinion, whenever we see any kind of scandal, no matter we see any kinds of tweets, no matter what Snapchat we see, no matter what controversy we see, we accept that because we have already recognized that that is Jeffree Star. And Jeffree Star's followers and Jeffree Star's fans have already accepted that. They see anything that he does, anything that he says, and anything that he writes, and they say, that is Jeffree Star. He is unapologetically Jeffree Star, and we're willing to accept that. And in many cases, that is good, because it's actually really refreshing to see somebody on the internet that is so intent on being himself and so intent on following his own narrative. But in so many other cases, it's really quite harmful, because this person is not necessarily somebody that uses his platform to spread 100% positivity, which I think is problematic. His persona and his way of doing things on the internet has compelled his audience and his viewers to either accept him as he is and leave. And because he has established himself as such a unique person, and in many cases such a role model, and I don't like calling Jeffree Star a role model, but I feel like in many cases he is a role model, because he has so many, like, millions of followers. But he's a role model, I think, to the person who is feeling like they don't have anybody to relate to the person who is feeling like they'll never be successful. He is a role model because he has a success story, and because he is unapologetically Jeffree Star. So because he is such a role model to so many people in that way, people are able to forgive him and to accept him for his flaws, which in a sense is harmful, because I think that people should be called out for what they are. But whenever somebody tries to call out Jeffree Star, they basically fuel his publicity and his notoriety. They're able to fuel his brand. They're able to basically circulate his name around and make him even more successful than he already is. The fact that people are still so intent on supporting Jeffree Star, and the fact that people look at Jeffree Star in such a positive light when he doesn't always put out positive vibes onto the internet, that is representative of his audience and the people who are on this platform as a whole, because you have so many people who are aching for somebody who is different and who is unapologetically different and bold and successful, and Jeffree Star is that person. You only need to look at his mansion in Calabasas. You only need to look at his countless cars that he's always just buying more of. You only need to look at his pets. You need to look at his closet to realize that he is somebody that is very successful, and he has been successful because he is Jeffree Star. And in that way, he is a role model for somebody who may not be that successful, but who wants to be that successful being themselves. I would also say that Jeffree Star really started to make leaps and bounds when it came to his success with the release of the Shane Dawson series that Shane Dawson did on Jeffree Star. I have personally not finished that series. Whenever it comes to anything that Shane Dawson publishes, any one of his series, they're so long, they're so lengthy, and I really don't want to waste my time watching something that's like hours and hours long. I have seen most of it, but I haven't seen all of it. But Shane Dawson's series, I think that it was really interesting and really valuable for Jeffree Star because of two things. Number one, that series was the first time that we had seen Jeffree Star in a relatively raw and unfiltered lens. This was the first time that we had seen Jeffree Star basically show his underbelly, if you will, when before that he was somebody who was intent on basically portraying himself as Jeffree Star, the unbeatable mogul. And in that series, he showed his vulnerable side, or rather the vulnerable side that we were allowed to see. So he showed his underbelly in that series, and that made him very attractive. And that sounds really weird, but that made him really attractive to viewers. And also the second point that I want to make is that series was able to portray him as a likable person, as a vulnerable person. And a vulnerability is really, really attractive on the internet, because people want to see influencers undone. People want to look at somebody and be like, oh, they're screwed up, or they're having a bad day. That makes me feel better, and that makes me feel good because I'm having a bad day as well, or I have bad days too. Does that make any sense? So in that way, I think that Jeffree Star recognized that being vulnerable and being unfiltered, because I don't necessarily think that anybody can be truly unfiltered on the internet, because we always have to go through an editing process. We always have to show like certain sides of ourselves, and I think that in many cases Jeffree Star recognizes that being unfiltered to a certain extent is actually really beneficial to him, because it allows people to see him as an actual human being, as a human being with many dimensions, and that makes him really desirable to somebody who's watching. So that is basically my little casual sit down willy-nilly video in which I talk about why I think it's impossible to cancel Jeffree Star. I truly believe that there's so much to go into when it comes to Jeffree Star, because oh my gosh, the Jeffree Star has so much to unpack. I feel like I'm really just like into like analyzing certain personalities and certain brands on the internet. I feel like I'm just unleashing my inner Tiffany Ferg. Like, by the way, if you haven't watched Tiffany Ferg, her series on internet analysis is really great. I'll put her down below. But anyway, yeah, like I just love like analyzing certain people in the beauty community. It's really interesting and really fascinating to me. So if you haven't already checked out my Jaclyn Hill video that I did similar to this one, I'll put it in the cards for your enjoyment. But that is it for this video. I have to go get lunch and I have to run to work, but thank you so much for watching. I do hope you enjoyed this one and found it interesting, and I will see you next time. Bye guys.